Alrighty, folks, welcome back to what was previously known as Johnny Reviews is the Slice of Life podcast. And folks, you know the deal. Today on the podcast, we have CJ on the other side of the table. What's up, man?
What's up, man? I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah?
Man. Cannot complain. It's a beautiful day. It's sun shining. Sky's blue.
It is sunshine.
It is hot.
I had to cover almost that window right there.
Yeah. Got to do some external lighting.
I have exactly. I have to really make this lighting perfect, I guess. I don't know the best way to put it. But dude, how are you in 2020? Let's just start off with that, man.
You know,
we'll get to who you are and all that stuff.
Right.
Let's just see how you're doing.
Yeah, we'll learn who I am. You know, in a weird way, 2020 has been a pretty decent year for me. There's been spiritual awakenings. There's been artistic awakenings. There's been cultural awakenings. Not only for me, but for the whole world, which is important right now. Even though we are in the midst of this craziness that's, sweeping over the entire planet, it's been a pretty good year, man. I'm not going to lie.
I ask everybody at the beginning of the podcast because that's like the one thing that everybody it gives me a different perspective on. Just they're like, dude, it's been very shitty. It's just, and I'm like, why? And then right now, you're just like, yeah, it's been pretty good, man. Like I can't complain.
Yeah, I get how it's, it has been. I mean, I'm one of the fortunate ones. I can't speak for everyone.
Right.
When I know that there's been a lot of hardship in the world, there's a lot of hardship financially, there's a lot of hardship emotionally.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind about that. But I think it was when all of this started, when I got kicked out of work because of COVID, and a lot of my coworkers, and we had gone on furlough and we were now unemployed. I didn't want to. I knew what a lot of my friends would be doing. I know what a lot of people would be doing is exactly just sitting in and watching movies. Mm-hmm. Just don't get me wrong, I did. But
a lot of people did.
I mean, I caught up on a lot of good movies.
Dude, I watched the entire Game of Thrones in a matter of a month.
I have yet to see a single episode.
You serious?
Swear to God.
Fuck.
It doesn't.
I said the exact same thing, bro. And I watched it and I was like, all right, this is.
You gotta trust it. Right.
Yeah, dude. 3 shows in and I was like, all right, this is actually pretty good.
One show I have seen over and over and over again is Dexter.
Dude, everybody, I have not seen that.
All right,
but
I'll make a deal with you. I'll watch the episodes of Game of Thrones if you watch Dexter.
All right.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about serial killers. I know,
dude, I'm almost done with Criminal Minds.
Everybody's tripping over Criminal Minds right now.
Yeah.
My sisters are tripping over Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
They're obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Amber and Aaron. Love you guys.
Yeah. Criminal Minds, shout out to you.
Yeah, for real. There is such a strange fascination with serial killers and the mind of psychopaths. And like that, I watched that show Mindhunter.
I haven't seen that.
That's a really good show too.
I think David saw that. Maybe.
Right. It kind of puts you in that where they were mentally, when they were doing these terrible things.
Yeah.
Weird, freaky things.
The one I saw was the Ted Bundy one. I guess it was not also the Zac Efron one,
I think Ted Bundy's the Walmart of serial killers.
The Walmart. That's the best analogy. I'm not trying to what he did. But
no,
it's
But yeah, everybody the first thing when you hear serial killer, you think Ted Bundy, which I guess he made the name for himself.
Yeah, sure. I went to the Death Museum in Louisiana, in New Orleans, dude. I'd never been, and I was like, I want to go there. This seems pretty cool.
Right.
And there's articles and I don't know. They just kind of make it look like it's a bigger thing than it really is.
Right.
And they had this little Ted Bundy part, and they just kind of had just picture an FBI. I don't even know if I should be talking about this, but just picture an FBI board of
with string
where
and tacks.
It starts and keeps going like that, and
the line.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It was I don't know why people fascinate over that shit so much.
I think it's because
how do we get to this? I don't know. We'll get back to it. Whatever.
We'll circle back to what 2020 was eventually, but now we're talking about serial killers. No, I think it's because people who have that rationale sense of obviously I'm not going to murder somebody. It's you're able to be in that comfort zone of finding it interesting to see how these people think.
True.
That's what I think. But I guess to get back to the question and what I was saying earlier, I guess what I didn't want to do is just spend my time completely, just dull, doing nothing. I know a lot of people who started exercising more, which is awesome, which I love to see.
Yeah.
As someone I've been in like the fitness world for almost my whole life since I was about 13 or 14 years old. It's nice to see that people are like, exercising
like
and getting out and
I'm saying it's not everybody. Like I'm not gonna be a pessimist, but at the same time, it's like, come on, man. Like, you have all this time for yourself. Don't just kind of like wallow away in some show. Get out there and fucking do something.
Wallowing. That's a good word for it. Wallowing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So one of my friends, he came on the podcast also. He started at quarantine. Like he did intermittent fasting, and he came on my show. He came on the podcast.
Right.
And we just started like diving deep in like why we wanted to do this, and because I did it back in 2018. And I just wanted to see what his perspective was, like how he got to where he's at. Now he looks good. He's like rocking everything that his whole mental state changed ever since like the beginning of quarantine. I'm like, that's a good. Chase Asarian, you're gonna be back on here.
Shout out Chase.
Yeah.
No, it really is amazing. Like, because it really does kind of rewire how you think and see life. Because I'm no scientist, but when you're doing physical exercise and the endorphins in your brain are being released and
you feel good,
you feel better.
Yeah, better.
And eventually, once you start to feel better, you'll start to look better,
exactly.
which reverts right back to feeling better.
Yeah, it's like confidence, and it's like all those different things. It's like a domino effect in a good way.
Yeah, and you're proud because
100%.
you came from one spot to what you are now. I mean, I was a fat little kid. I was a chubby little kid. My mom says it was baby fat, but she's lying.
She's lying.
Yeah, I was fat.
You're fat.
I was fat. I basically lived off
she's
of
your mom. She's gonna tell you like some lies.
I lived off of chimichangas and honey buns. No joke. And sometimes I still eat honey buns, but don't tell anybody that.
Everyone's gonna know after this. I'll say that.
Right. Send me honey buns.
Brought to you by. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not gonna say
that. But no, man. So 2020 has been, I guess, awakening is just the one word I would describe 2020 as. Awakening in many different ways, but it was a chance for me to realize, like, when I was out of work and unemployed, I really took the time to reflect on, like, man, like, what am I doing? Like, I do like to think of myself as an artist because I do these things. I paint, and we'll get into that later.
I think you self-reflected.
Yeah, and I didn't want to, like, do I really want to go and spend 40 hours of my life a week doing something that I don't really care for?
Keep in mind, where do you work?
Oh, I work for the mouse, man.
You don't say.
I work for the big old mouse with the big old ears and the big old hands. And sometimes Goofy if he's cool. No, and it's not that I don't enjoy my job. I like to think I'm good at my job, which shall remain undisclosed. My job specifically,
100%.
But it's not something I'm extremely passionate about, and all these other things that I'm doing that I've gotten the chance to do during quarantine are the things that I'm passionate about. And I think if you follow your heart and you follow your passions, you'll never work a day in your life. I don't want to work, man. I want to enjoy. I don't want it to feel like work. That's the whole point. I want it to feel like I'm doing something where I can, for me, I want to send a message. I want to bring people together, and I want to have fun all at once, which is not impossible. And for anybody who thinks it is impossible, I would love to chat with you, because I would love to see why you think that way.
Exactly.
There's no need to always think negatively. When there's so much negativity in the world already. There's, there's tragedies happening all over, and you could choose to focus on those, and it's not unheard of I mean, you should acknowledge them, but acknowledging them and harping on them are two different things. Or focusing completely on that, you know?
I agree with that. So where I'm going to go with this especially is because you're right, like the introspective of like why I want it. We're not all that different. I guess what I mean to say is like, I don't know if everybody kind of like should self-realize that like at an early age, you know, and realize like, damn, do I want to fucking like do this for the rest of my life?
Right.
Or and some people go the rest of their lives maybe not are okay with that. Yeah. And do you think it's for everybody? Like, I
think that
because here's the thing, and a lot of people can't deal with the failures, and I think that's, for me, that's where I will, like, a lot of people can't take it, like take that criticism and
like accept the fact that they've probably succumbed to, and
essentially it will hinder their risk taking
if they're not strong enough to accept that, right?
Yeah.
I just think that, I mean, I obviously can only speak from personal experience, and
right.
You'll probably hear me say that 100 more times in this podcast.
Yeah, and essentially, like, we're both, like, I would say I'm an artist.
Right.
But at the same
Definitely,
time, yeah, thanks, man. I'm just gonna look at the camera and just hopefully they agree.
And wink.
And wink.
And smile. No, I think.
But yeah,
I wouldn't take my experiences for anything else. You know, that's to say, all the things I've been through. You know, some of the things we discussed yesterday that we'll get into.
Yeah.
Things that I've felt and the people I've met. It's all the way I see it. It's all been developing into a timeline until now.
Okay.
Until this realization.
And it was because of everything that's happening externally that kind of made it do it?
I think so, because...
and what I mean by that, it's like everything that's going on in 2020, essentially. Is what
2020? Like, well, I must say I was a little bit on this trail of realization prior to 2020.
That. Okay,
right?
So yeah.
But it just kind of all unfolded in 2020, I should say. But it was more like I get it. Like, the more we discuss what we've been through, and especially things that we feel like we're feeling alone with,
right?
And you feel like, hey, I'm gonna tell somebody this, and I'm opening myself up, I'm being vulnerable.
Yeah.
The more you realize that you're not alone, really, and that you have a lot of things in common with other people that you wouldn't have known unless you had opened up.
100%.
And I do think that everything happens for a reason. So I think everything that I had been through had happened for a reason, and that's why I say I wouldn't take it and change it for anything.
Okay.
I mean, I've been in some really high spots, and I've been in some really low spots, like just like everybody else has, just in their own different way, you know, man.
Yeah, right now, and this is the best way for me to kind of make it make sense, is that a lot of people are in the race to see who has suffered the most.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And once I kind of kept telling myself that, I'm like, yeah, like, who has it the most shittiest is really what everything that's going on right now. And I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying, like, that's just a way for me to kind of like make it funny, but at the same time, like,
it is a little bit comical how it's kind of like a roundabout way.
It's
like a dog chasing its own tail.
Bro, it goes all the way back to like history wise. Like, people will take it all the way back there.
History does repeat itself.
That's what I say that all the time.
Many a
bro.
time.
I say that all the time, man.
Just in different forms, you know.
And here's the thing why I wanted to invite you on also, man, because I like, especially when you said this, the speaking of being vulnerable and all that stuff, not saying it's not unpopular, but it's very popular in this sort of format, in a way where we can literally talk.
Right.
But I like seeing the like how we mentioned yesterday, how we see there's people that obviously like the world, obviously like the worldly pleasures and all this stuff.
Right.
And I like that perspective. I want to see how the perspective is. When I was talking to you, I feel like you were more internally, like, figuring out the spiritualness of what you're doing and how to go about that. And I don't shy away from that, and
Right.
the reason I say that is because people not I think everybody has to kind of like dabble in some sort of internal thinking and internal monologuing for yourself, and I think this is a perfect way to do it.
Right.
And so when I was like talking to you, I want you to kind of like figure out like you're not the same as a lot of people.
So I've heard.
So and the reason I'm saying that is like either people are gonna think, this guy's super hippie, super weird, super whatever. And we can start with that. Like how, where, and why did you kind of like accumulate to this?
I would love to be the world's dry erase board if everybody had a marker and eraser. You can label me however you want.
I don't even know what that means.
Like, like if you want me to be a hippie, you write hippie. And if somebody else wants me to be a weirdo, they'll erase it and they'll write weirdo. But it's dry erase, so it won't get all messy like a chalkboard.
There you go.
I don't know about you. I used to have to clean the chalkboard erasers in elementary school.
Here's the thing, man. We're the only ones that know about there's no chalkboards anymore, bro. And if there is, they make it like playful in a small little.
What a drag, man.
Dude, they
teaches you discipline. No,
getting messed with all that shit. Oh gosh.
Well, I find that that you were speaking of the inner monologue in your own head. Everybody has one. It's called your consciousness, your self-consciousness, I guess. And there was a point in my life where mine wouldn't shut the fuck up. And it was really annoying. And he was like always worried about shit like with ex-girlfriends or worried about things that were happening in the future, like things that haven't even happened yet. And I find looking back on it and looking to a lot of other people, they see themselves, they're really tripping over like things that happened back in the day. Or they're tripping about things that are coming up in the future, in the near future.
Things that can't control is really weird.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things about being internally aware is recognizing the fact that you can't stress over things you can't control because that's wasted energy. You could be using that energy to revert it to like love and to giving back to the community or to helping a friend out. Like it's just a crazy example. If I'd rather be like helping a friend move apartments than tripping about rent next week. And I hate moving. But like I said, like it's just direction of energy. And I think that so I had wanted to find a way to quiet that voice, and like I was saying yesterday, I'm a big fan of music. Music has been, extremely present my entire life. Ever since I was just a kid, my mom was showing me Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith. I like rock and roll. But I'm also like, I'll be listening to Led Zeppelin one day, and then I'll be listening to classical music the next, or jazz the next, or blues, or hip hop. It's all kind of connected in a way. But when I'm listening to a band that I find extremely interesting,
right,
I don't just listen to the music. I want to feel the music. I want to feel the lyrics. I want to feel the chord changes and the drum fills and the bass lines and things like that. And one of the bands that had that my focus had fallen onto was the Beatles. And so I had studied the anthology of the Beatles. I had listened to every album, every recording session that I could before they were commercial Beatles, like before they came on the Ed Sullivan show.
They were big.
Before Beatlemania.
Yeah.
And not only did I love the music, I loved the movement.
Right.
British musicians and European musicians, because the same thing was happening in like rural France and rural Germany, but you just weren't hearing it. Luckily enough, the Beatles were the ones who got famous off of it.
Yeah.
And they were
bring it to the mainstream too.
Right. They were like the big push of the British invasion.
Yeah.
And so I had studied all of their music, all of their lyrics, their lives. I want to know what they were thinking when they were writing these songs, the influences they were feeling from other musicians.
Right.
And I think that's one of a beautiful thing about music and about sound, is that not only does it capture the time, it captures the energy. you can feel it when you're listening to a Ted Nugent album, and he's bringing it to like they're getting off the bridge and he's like really ramping it up. You can feel that energy. And so I had been studying the Beatles for a while, and of course, anybody who's anybody knows that the Beatles were taken under the wing of a Indian guru, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, His Holiness. And I found that really interesting because it's not traditional. It's not necessarily diving deep into religion per se, but more of a study, the study of meditation and what the meditation they were doing. They were studying transcendental meditation. And prior to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi meeting the Beatles, he had already been doing this circuit of like British television, spreading his word about transcendental meditation.
Right.
And so even before watching him interact with the Beatles, I was watching Maharishi give his lectures on this what's called Brahman consciousness and transcendental meditation. And all these words at the time were very foreign and exciting, and I had no idea what they meant. And so I wanted to explore it further. And so I started practicing transcendental meditation because I wanted to be like George Harrison, because he rocks. And I loved the Beatles, and he's a huge influence of mine, especially to this day.
Right.
So I had been practicing transcendental meditation, which, man, at first it was extremely difficult, and I get it. Anybody who's ever tried meditation, it's extremely hard.
It's a very difficult practice because I don't know, even the word meditation, people are gonna really define it differently now. Yeah. And more traditionalists are going to see, even in the monk stages, that kind of like they're going to try to find a way to make it make sense in their world. And this is where you get the shorter meditations that just kind of like breathing exercises, all these different things that kind of because I dabbled in the meditation also.
He who controls the breath controls the mind.
Exactly. Yeah, I never knew that, but now I know.
Well, it's true. You slow down your respiratory system and you slow down your heartbeat, and it's almost as if you can start to feel everything running slower. And then once you're aware of that subtle feeling, you just let it go. And it's okay. A lot of people that I talk to and that I discuss these things with, a lot of people say, man, I tried, but my brain just kept on, going. Like, I just kept on thinking about things.
Right.
And a way to overcome that I have found that has been here for centuries. What I'm doing is hundreds and hundreds of years old. I'm just doing it in today.
Right.
Just as Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and the Beatles were doing then.
Would that be a traditional? Like a traditionalist, I guess?
A form of meditation?
Yeah.
No. Transcendental meditation isn't traditionally a practice of meditation at that point in time. In the mid 60s, it wasn't.
Okay.
Now, because of the exposure that, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was getting excellent exposure because he was this, he's a rather strange little man who had a really delicate and soft voice, and it was very high pitched, and he was very squeaky, and it's interesting to people. And when people who have never seen things like that look at this little Indian man speaking of the ways of the yogis in the Himalayas, they're gonna take notice. But the exposure that he had gotten after the Beatles had met with him, it exploded transcendental meditation. You know what though? In my searchings and in my findings, I have found that it had become extremely commercialized now. And I thought that was really tragic because it takes away from the entire experience. If I can't speak for anybody, but I feel as if Maharishi Mahesh Yogi could see what had happened to transcendental meditation, he wouldn't be pleased. Because it's now just this massive commercialization of meditation. Because mindfulness and meditation and yoga now in the 21st century, we're in the 21st century, right? It's like one.
We're 21st century.
It's the one below, right? It's hip right now. It's hip. It's a big thing right now, and especially now with quarantine,
Yes,
it's become
I was, dude. You don't have any social media. We'll get into that, but I was like, I would be posting like yoga stances and all this other stuff,
right.
and don't get me wrong. Like I would consider myself a really hippie-ish, but at the same time, it's like hipster, and I don't know
Some hybrid.
some kind of hybrid, man. I don't know. I like the arts. I like I don't know. I love the idea of Zen, the idea of outdoors, the idea of yoga, actually, and meditate. All of that just intrigued me. After like 2017, I think it was just a way to kind of escape. I guess that was the best.
Right.
That was the best way to kind of even with the food habits. Like, you know, I went vegan for a bit,
Really?
didn't like it. I was like,
Right.
I don't know if I can do it. And so, yeah, hybrid is the best possible way because I love me. I love doing like normal, I guess, worldly things, but I also like being by myself and doing like things for myself. And
There are philosophical aspects of the hippie life that you enjoy,
yes,
but there are
but why
aspects of the world that you also enjoy.
exactly? And I don't know if it's because of the rise of popularity that it got, or if it's just, you know, it did help. And I think even like the idea, like people hate the idea of like whitewashing in general.
Right.
And so like
Whitewashing.
let me use this in a sense, like in the Hollywood aspect, is if you got a movie that is predominantly made in Mexico, right?
Okay.
And you get white characters to kind of play Mexican. Does that
yes.
make sense?
Yes.
So, and people
The
hate
Caucasian ruining the ancient practices of other religions or other
Yeah.
cultures. Yes, it's very popular in America.
exactly. So like how you're explaining this, I honestly don't give a crap about like what Hollywood says because
Right.
essentially it's a freaking movie. And for one, even like the idea of like kind of like, I don't know, even you get somebody to play a cholo Mexican, like, you
Right.
know, that is overly exaggerated. I'm like,
I've never met. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm just saying it's funny to me.
It is funny.
And so like I'm just saying, like, I don't see anything bad with mainstreaming it, if per se, because a person like you, I honestly think it's a very amazing thing whenever I can bring somebody that is from a different culture and bring him to a Mexican culture and introduce him to sort of like these different things.
Right.
And now people love and are ingrained with Hispanic culture because of the day-to-day living here in the United States. But
Right.
I see it as a perk. Like, I'm like, dude, like if I can spread the way that I see things and it will influence how you love this music, you love this food, you love
Right.
these sort of aspects. I'm like, yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So, and I say that with a question mark because I'm like, I don't see any repercussions with it
Right.
per se. I just feel like people get offended real
Yeah.
easily now.
I think, you know, I didn't have like hippie parents, you know.
I didn't either, bro.
My mom was a hardworking, you know, she worked in the
Traditional.
court system. Like she's pretty legit. My dad was in the army, so I mean, there's that whole you know barrel. But
American family.
the beautiful thing about this whole experience that I've experienced, is that it all came completely on accident or by fate, if you will, because I was never exposed to these things as a young child, and like somehow like as someone who would someone who's practiced Christianity their whole life.
Right.
It's not like that for me. I didn't have, and I think because I didn't have some sort of religion or viewing of life being forced upon me, that it gave me the freedom to explore different things.
Define force, because
Well,
you were forced to go to church every Sunday.
No,
like,
it's that I wasn't. It's
Okay,
that I
okay.
didn't have that pushing force. I know I have
they
so
were
much.
they were really open with you then. Like,
Yeah, extremely open.
Okay.
I have the most open relationship with my father. I tell him absolutely everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know.
Oh yeah, older? Like when you got older?
No, my whole life.
Wow.
I'm also the only boy. Maybe that helps. So we had
Yes,
that.
I think I would say it's a good
Right.
factor. But at the same time, yeah, I came from a traditional, or like going to church. I mean, like,
Right.
my mom had to deal with 3 boys, and then a fourth one coming in, and then it's like, like, it's like sometimes the church was the way, not the way out, but like a daycare. Like, I guess, like, it's like,
Yeah, you got Sunday school. It's a
yeah,
little bit of
yeah,
weight off your mom's shoulders
exactly.
a little bit.
It's so even from my perspective, we can say that it was forced, but I still found a way to kind of like. I mean, it doesn't fit me. And then
Right.
later on, I think that's whenever you had to like fight for
Right.
what you want, I guess.
Well, I think if the parent in question, not yours specifically,
Mhm.
but just the
Mhm.
parent in this scenario, if the child got older now as a young adult and they choose not to
go.
that path, and then they hold some sort of flame of animosity to them for that, that's not very cool. Because now that person is, you've raised that child is now an adult. It has the ability to make
Its own
own choices,
Yeah.
and you have to respect that. I've made plenty of choices my mom didn't approve of, just like I'm sure a lot of people have.
Shout out to my mom.
Yeah, love you, Barb. But
Love you, mom.
and but at the same time, she has to, or they have to, accept that I'm gonna make my own decisions,
Right.
because I have to live with the certain sacrifice or the consequences, I should say. I mean,
Right.
but yeah, so
I can see that. I like that perspective. I think it's an open perspective, and I think it's something also that is learned. So it's something that can really heighten somebody's ability to decision make better.
Right.
And so, but with that being said, I want to talk about your art and go into your this idea and creativity that you say you are upon, because this has a lot to do with also the BLM movement, and
Yes.
it has a lot to do with like where you're trying to go with it. Let's see.
I was actually being a military brat. We moved around a lot.
Okay.
By the time I was like being raised like to where I was, I had cognition, and I was like aware of my surroundings. I was probably about like 7 or 8, and we had been settled down in upstate New York for good.
Right.
And but still I was raised predominantly by black families or Hispanic families or Asian families. Like with the military, it's a melting pot. So you get a lot of everybody, and a lot of people help out other families,
Okay.
That's one of the beautiful things about like that military community, is that they all know what each other are going through, so they're going to help out.
And
so
brothers.
they're
Essentially,
brothers.
like
And the families are families.
Yes.
So I had I had been raised by black families, and my entire life my best friends have been black, and
So am I.
there's never been any sort of question in my mind that I'm not the same as this person. And so even like that developing into today's issues and social reform and all that stuff, of course I'm going to be a huge supporter of that. Being raised on that philosophy, I have I'm not an aggressive person. I'm not a violent person, but I have no tolerance for ignorance. If you're going to tell me that you can't shake someone's hand or look at someone or say hi to someone just because of the color of their skin is sickening.
Yeah.
And as a human being to another human being, like, it's really disturbing. And so I wanted to be a part of what was going on. So when everything happened with George Floyd, it was terrible. And I had gone out I went to a protest in Tampa.
Okay.
And I got some pretty strange looks, man. This blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid. I mean, because nobody knows your story.
Nobody does.
Nobody knows your story. They're just looking at you.
Yeah.
And I'm rolling around. I was skateboarding around Tampa to find this protest. I got the shirt on. No matter the color, you are my brother. And I got the sign, and Black Lives Matter, and I'm skating around, and I get these weird looks from people, but I also got a lot of praise. I got a lot of positivity out of that, and that was a beautiful thing.
The people that negatively Why were they looking at you like that?
Like I said, because it's just probably strange for them to see this blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy just rolling around on a skateboard. Like, dude, like it is probably strange for them to see him like what does he really know about like black culture?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, it's a fair assessment. It's a fair judge. I mean, judgment's not cool, but it's a fair judgment to the first glance. And like I said, I'm not gonna hold animosity towards anybody for that. But no, so I wanted to be a part of it. So I went down there and I protested. I wasn't able to get down to Orlando to protest. But I was in DC visiting my father because my father lives in DC.
Okay.
And I was about a week to this all happening. I was at a pawn shop or oldie but goodie shop in Arlington, Virginia, and I had found this 35 millimeter camera, Konica FS1, beautiful camera.
Classic.
I didn't know if it worked, didn't know if it functioned, but I bought it anyways, and got some film for it. I wasted a whole roll of film just testing it out. No idea if it was working or not. And when I'm in DC, I always go to Chinatown to get sushi because they have the best sushi in the country. I'm going on record saying that.
I would disagree with that, but
I'm saying, man,
San Antonio roll back in Texas.
Fair enough. I've been to San Antonio
Subjective.
too.
Yeah.
I've been to San Antonio.
There you go. Yeah, I was like, yeah.
Well, I was in Chinatown and I was on. DC has those scooters that you can rent around. So, I'm zipping around.
A lot of places have that now.
Yeah. I'm zipping around and I'm having a good time. The wind's in my face. It's not too hot. It's a beautiful day, man. And I just felt I wanted to get down there and I wanted to shoot some graffiti and some flowers or something that I could find that would be interesting. And so I'm rolling down the block and I see a couple of people with Black Lives Matter shirt on. And I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm like, are you guys like just here or is there something going on? Like, I'm down with the cause. So like, what's going on? And they were, yeah, I think there's a march down by the Lincoln Memorial, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, very cool. So, I'm going to go check it out. I'm excited. I want to get down there. I'm like probably 13 blocks from Lincoln Memorial. So I got to hurry up because I don't want to miss it. Yeah. But I also was thinking to myself, I wanted to get black and white film.
Yeah.
I wanted to shoot it in black and white because of this issue that has been around for centuries too long. I thought black and white would be a beautiful way to capture how times unfortunately haven't really changed that much in a way. And so I was like zipping around what had happened was they had closed off about like the 4 blocks around the Lincoln Memorial. Police closed it off, so you couldn't drive down there and you couldn't even scoot down there. And I'm like trying to find a photo shop because you have to go to like a certain like kind of like camera shop to get that 35 millimeter film. You can't just go to like a Walgreens and get it. I tried. So I finally found this photo place. I go in there. She hooks it up. The wonderful lady, I believe her name was Linda. And so she gave me the camera back and I get out of there and I don't want to miss it. I really don't want to miss it because this is all happening like that. And so I get down to Lincoln Memorial and man, I shit you not, I get down there and there's 150,000 people down there. It was unreal. I've never seen like, I felt like I was at Woodstock, man. It was huge. It was Goliath. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I had parked my scooter, whatever. I'm walking down there and I start snapping a couple of pics, but nothing really quite in capturing yet because I wasn't in the middle of it yet. And I plan to get in the middle of it, like deep in the middle of it. And so I made my way. I'm right in front of the Lincoln Memorial on the National Mall, right by the water. And they're funneling everybody into like the sidewalk area that's right next to the water. Okay. And there's music playing. There's people, shouting with their signs and everything, obviously. And I remember thinking the gravity of the situation is so much bigger than anything I've ever felt. I'm saying like, when I feel like I'm an old soul anyways. but even you could give me all of the beads and flowers in the world and throw on all the Zeppelin and Beatles tracks. I'll never feel as back in time as I did when I was shooting this. It transported me, man. And I said, fuck this. So I took my shoes off. I put them in my backpack and I got in the water. I got in the water in front of the National Mall, in front of the Lincoln Memorial. And I'm walking around and everybody else starts hopping in the water. And I'm like, oh, sweet. So I start getting as many pictures as I could. And I'll go over this first one.
Yeah. You can put them up here when it.
Okay.
All right. So what are we looking at?
What we are looking at is, this is to the north of the Lincoln Memorial. You had come, let's say the Lincoln Memorial is right here, and you had come up the water in front of the memorial, down this way, and then like into like this massive park area, and then onto this road. And the fact that I was able, without patting myself on the back here, the fact that I was able to get this while everybody was moving their signs was incredible, because this vote sign, because everybody knows how critical it is to vote this year with this election especially. And I felt like with that being such a political exclamation point, that the fact that I got it at the focal point of this picture is really interesting to me. And the crazy thing is, man, I thought my camera was out of film. I shot this just out of pure,
out of wind.
Yeah, out of like fuck it, balls
like
to the wind, might as well.
Like the best ones too.
And I agree completely. This is my second favorite picture of this series. Yeah, man, and it was just the amount of people. I mean, you can kind of see how many people were there, but not really. This doesn't even do it justice. And I was barefoot. I had no shirt on. I had my bandana on, and I was straight hippied out, and I loved it, man. And it was. Make yourself known. I had chills, man. I had chills. And so this was a beautiful picture that I grabbed. I have to say
that's a good one.
And I believe that the target I was going for with that black and white film, I believe I captured. Because you look at this,
and like you put one like this side by side by one that was actually back in the 60s, and the 60s were crazy, but like you put it side by side by it, you're definitely going to see some similarities. It doesn't matter if it's just the focal point of what the picture is trying to portray. Yes, there are some similarities from this, and if you see some protests from back in the day,
right,
and alluding to what it really means, it's just like, yeah, you're right. A lot of things maybe haven't changed, or even just then, it's just a lot more people are feeling less equal to one another, and that's what I see from this picture.
Right. And what's really interesting is this was the lovely people who organized this march, the Black Lives Matter movement. This was the same march that Martin Luther King Jr. did on his Freedom March in 1963, I believe. And that was heavy, man. Like, knowing that we were, like, all of us in this picture were walking in the same footsteps as the people who were fighting for change,
right,
all those years ago. It's just, it's extremely heavy, and it's extremely emotional, man. That it's beautiful, it's tragic, it's poetic, it's it's heavy, and I just, yeah, it's crazy.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Yeah, this next one. You want to grab that?
Yeah.
This next picture was taken right in front of the Lincoln Memorial.
Okay, let me see. Do you have PDF files for these?
I do. Okay, I have PDF files because
I'm ask you to send them just so I can put them on.
Yeah, definitely. So this was right in the water that's the Lincoln Memorial. That's the Lincoln Memorial right in the background there, and you can see all the people that are starting to get in the water and everything. And this gentleman was nice enough to. I had asked him to get his picture, and I didn't tell him to do his fist or anything like that. He did that,
Yeah.
and that's what makes the picture. And you can see like what I see when I see this is the time. Listen, we're in the pandemic right now with coronavirus. This guy's wearing a mask. I mean, the Black Lives Matter movement is happening. Mm-hmm. They're going to look back. I mean, at least I am. I'm going to look back on this picture in 50 years and like this was history, man.
This literally would entail a set time, place, scenario,
exactly,
everything.
Yeah.
Like
during the 2020 social reform movement, during the corona pandemic. Boom.
This is literally what it's saying.
This is my favorite picture of this series. I think it speaks volumes
really
without.
Picture, yeah. I
could never ever do this picture justice of what this picture is doing itself. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can't put into words the emotional power that this thing is punching. You know, and it was a beautiful. I had no idea it was going to come out this way with like him in the forefront. But man, I'm glad it did.
That's a really good photo.
I really enjoy it. I'm really proud of it. Yeah, I'm really proud of it.
Did you get the gentleman's name?
No, I didn't. No. Everybody was just kind of moving.
Yeah.
Jamming, moving, vibing. And I was actually surprised at the amount of people. It did take me by surprise how these people are, obviously I'm not going to say any names, obviously, but they had asked me, they said, did you feel safe? Were you worried at all? And I was like, what? I was kind of offended by it because.
Wait, the people at the protest?
No. People after I was telling them about this.
Oh, okay.
They were like, so were you scared at all? I was like, why would I be scared? We were all literally there for the same thing. That's more safe than I felt in the last 2 years living in Orlando. Is being around all those people. And I honestly, like, I'm not a big supporter of like. Well, I won't say that, but
what do you think they were trying to mean? Like the people that were asking you that. I
think they might have just been misinformed, and that's the optimistic side of me viewing it. In
what way?
I think they might have just been seeing what they saw on the news with all these. Because don't get me wrong, there were violent riots all over the country.
Yeah,
that happened.
It happened.
So they were probably just
seeing that and
and putting the two together. But I politely informed them that it was quite the contrary. It was very peaceful and very moving and extremely profound, historic, honestly.
Essentially, it's like one of the focal points, right? You went to D.C. and it's like one of the most, I think, prominent places to make a stand and.
Nation's capital, baby.
And that's what I mean. And I'm not, and that's the thing, like everything that's going on, 100% have to be for it. Like,
right. It's been too much, man.
And that's the thing. I've seen, and kind of like I'm not even gonna play the victim here. Not gonna be like what I said in the beginning, like who definitely has gone through the worst.
Who suffered more.
And that's the thing. It's just some of the obvious things that are clear as day. Eye to eye, like that. Some of these things aren't supposed to, be happening. So, right. And with that being said, it really is not just even awakening a sort of a speaking point for just them. Imagine people of any race, like it doesn't matter. Like I wouldn't say like I'm in the middle of the black and white movement or like a idea of like all lives, black lives, everything. And I'm just saying like it's just really even speaking up someone per se like me, where I've seen both sides. Yeah, I've experienced both sides, and it's just race isn't like the color of my skin isn't going to say anything. It just culturally I've seen differently. Yeah. And so that's the reason why like this is a good way to even be a part of it. It's just even taking pictures,
Yeah, and I've personally reached out to the Black Lives Matter movement by email and trying to connect them
with us.
I would love to, if anybody sees this, and I'm plugging myself here, if anybody sees, because I don't have social media, that's all I can get. If anybody sees this and they want to be a part of this and support this, and they want, if they think this image or any of these images can capture the message they're trying to send through their organization, I would more than happily I would donate these photos. Yeah. And I told the Black Lives Matter the movement that too. I had written it in my email that I'd more than gladly just give you these photos, because I'm not gonna put a price on these. I'm not gonna try to profit off of these. No,
of course not. Yeah,
I'm not gonna monetize. What do they call it? Monetize. I'm not gonna try to monetize these because of what they stood for, what they stand for, and what had happened, and what I went through when I was doing this.
Yeah.
And this next one, I'll show you.
Yeah.
This next one is even is more profound in a different way, I think.
Yeah, if you do have the PDF files for this.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely.
For the edits.
So if anybody can't read it on the camera there, this gentleman's sign says, "I'm finna shoot back." And I saw it and I immediately grabbed it. I'm like, dude, yo. I said, "Please let me get this picture." And he was like, "Yeah, of course, man." And it captures the aggression that this mass of people are feeling because of this, terrible like energy that they've been exposed to. I've like you were saying earlier, I've experienced racism as well from African Americans and from other races.
Yeah, explain it in the most detailed way, because this is gonna be like
it's
because look, I'm not saying I disagree with you, because dude, there's racism even in the classes of Latin America. Like, people that can't understand that and comprehend that is the reason for, like, I don't know. There's always an imbalance between all of that stuff, and I'm not saying you're not wrong. Just clarify it, because
it's what I call subtle racism.
Okay, go ahead.
It's just why. Without going with the names or detail, like too much detail, it's just why would this white guy be hanging out with this group, or why would this white guy be in this car with all these guys, or they automatically assume I'm a certain type of way because of the color of my skin. And I'm not crying victim here, not whatsoever. I got nothing to complain about. All I was trying to say is that whatever I've experienced is a sliver, is an atom, is a molecule size compared to what other people have experienced.
True.
And especially in this year and in this time, unfortunately. And what I wanted to do when I got this picture was show that. And show that that people are tired of it. And people are reaching to that boiling point, man. I mean, I don't support the riots per se. But I don't not understand why they're doing it. You know what I mean? I understand where they are coming from. But that's that argumentative side of me. I like to see the perspectives.
And that's the thing. I feel like that's ingrained in us, like in some sort of aspect, some way. I don't know. And that's just me trying to make it make sense, you know. But this really
trying to make it make sense. That's a good way to put it.
And a lot of people try to do that, and it's hard to comprehend or look at both sides, and we can always rationalize and go back to our experiences, but at the same time, it's like deep down, you're not a bad person,
right? And
deep down, a lot of these people aren't bad. So it's like the sour apples, the people that are bad, the people that are bad that are in power. It's like, what does that really say? What does it really try to kind of like really say? And when I look at this, you probably have a different perspective than what I would have, because I'm finishing back. I look at it as it's the idea of like an eye for an eye, like and I don't know if that's a good enough answer. I'm just saying, like,
right. We don't have all the answers,
yeah.
but we
Keep in
can.
mind,
Only,
I'm like the most fair Libra that you could fucking know. Like, and I don't even know.
We
how
don't
much
know
I
all the
fucking
answers.
say.
We just make observations, man.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a good picture. It's a really good picture.
Thank you.
And I don't even know if it's that little girl that's holding in the back or if it's that guy.
Oh, it's that guy.
It's the guy.
It's the guy.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to say an answer because I don't fucking know what to say there. But but at the same time, it's like, yeah, this is a message. It's a message that's saying clear as day that a lot of stuff isn't okay.
Right. I was very fortunate enough to be able to be put on exhibit. These 3 photographs were put on exhibit at the Orlando Museum of Art.
That's dope.
They have a amazing program called First Thursdays.
Okay.
And I encourage
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I encourage any artist.
Yes.
Any artist who has anybody
in the Orlando
platform
area or Florida area.
Anybody. Dude,
anybody.
Hit me up. Let's create. We'll get into that later though. But yeah, they have an amazing program where they give you the opportunity to put in a spotlight your medium and your voice and the things that you create and do. Mm-hmm. And I was really fortunate enough and beautifully surprised that they were willing to take these photographs and put them on an exhibit there. And I think it was beautiful to be there. And I wanted it. It's a shame that it happened during COVID because I want this to be more out there and more available for people to see. Because I do think these, and again, without patting myself on the back too much, I do think that these photographs hold some serious weight to them as far as capturing the time and the issues in America right now. And so I know that's kind of tough when I have no social media.
Yeah, you don't have shit.
But I did do something for this podcast.
Okay, cool.
I did. I made a Snapchat.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What? That's the lucrative thing.
Snapchat is cool with me, I guess.
You
won't catch me with the cupcake filter or whatever it is. But
what's wrong with TikTok?
I don't want to see people dancing.
I get it.
I get it. But yeah, man. So I did make. I made a Snapchat to plug. So if anybody wants to Snapchat me, honestly, like, give me a random thing to photograph or paint, and I'll do it, man.
That's awesome, man.
Because
use that actually.
All I really want out of anything is just to create with other people.
Yeah.
I've gone my whole life without creating with other people, and that sucks. But it's to nobody's fault but my own, probably. But where I grew up was not so artistically inclined, I should say. But
and speaking of that, like, your artistic ventures really go before 2020.
Yeah, wide
and
spectrum.
And that's what we can go to your other. That's a good transitioning, honestly.
Yeah.
Let me see the.
Oh, you want to see Sticky Slim?
The most popular Sticky Slim that you're talking about?
I will show you guys Sticky Slim. Sticky Slim is this. Well, how should I say? He's this interesting cowboy. He's this interesting. He's the Western cowboy side of my brain. As you can tell by my vest, I like to kick it old school, and I think cowboys are really cool. And so when I pictured this guy in my mind, I was like, man, what would a cowboy be doing? Especially a weird cowboy like this Sticky Slim character. And so I'll show you what he's doing.
That should be your Snapchat name, Sticky Slim.
All right, y'all. This here is Sticky Slim. I love this dude, man. I love this dude. He was so much fun to paint.
But
for anybody who's wondering what he's doing, is that a green pumpkin? No, that is a peyote cactus.
I felt like that was a cactus.
It is a peyote cactus. A peyote cactus is one of those cactuses you can find in the Southwest, like a lot of other cactuses. But this specific cactus, if you drink it in a certain way, you trip balls. And this is what this bored cowboy is doing. Yeah.
Is he bleeding?
No, that's a tie.
Oh no,
And a
right
little.
there on his nose.
Oh no, that's just a nasal hole, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. But as you can tell, there's an abstract aspect to it, and I don't know. I just love this guy so much, and I do have to give a shout out to my very good friend Emily Franska. She helped me out with the sand. I had done all the color for the sand, but I'm not too great at texture. I'm more good at shitty art and calling it abstract. No,
Bro,
but
okay. let me get into that because I cannot look at I took art appreciation, whatever, but at the same time I can't look at art and then just kind of be like, oh
so
yeah,
that makes me feel.
this is a very and that's the thing.
What were you going for? What were you going for? What were you feeling?
Bro, that's the thing with a lot of artists. They're very self-critical about their work.
Right.
That they are like, don't look at it. Like, I don't want anybody to look at it. I mean, you're just like, dude, this is something I just made up. I don't know. There's gonna be some guy that's gonna look at this like, holy shit, that is a work of art.
I want people to see this and be like, what the fuck? Look at this dude.
They're like, what the fuck? Then they're gonna be thinking there's something wrong with this guy that fucking made it.
There is something wrong with this guy that made it. He's on a whole other level.
This is a original.
This is
CJ.
this is an original Canaan Crowell piece. That's my real name, Canaan Crowell.
Canaan Crowell.
Crowell, or Crowell, or Crowell, whatever.
Crowell.
Just call me Canaan, or CJ, whatever. But yeah, man. So he's actually. I enjoyed making this so much that he's actually going to be a part of a series that I'm doing, and I'm going to put him all over the world. So we'll see where his next adventure is going to go.
He's probably gonna be on a can.
Begging for change or something.
I was talking about brewery can.
Yes.
That's what I meant. The
anyone
art on that is bizarre. Like now I've seen it.
I had just recently I don't drink myself, but a family member of mine is affiliated with the 81 Bay Brewery in Tampa.
Yeah.
They have amazing lagers. I did try the Lightning Lager, and it's
Lightning
awesome.
Lager's delicious.
It's
I
awesome.
went to that one. It was actually really cool.
Right, and I had started noticing on IPAs of like breweries all around Florida, and I mean all around the world too. But the designs on these cans are amazing.
It has never been a best time to be an artist.
I agree completely. Yeah, it's a very true statement. Yeah,
and because of that, it's because you can find the most. Like, don't get me wrong, man. I'm looking at this. You're probably thinking this is like awesome. I'm looking at it as like something that, like you can literally make. And I'm like, you can find simplistic art, and I'm just saying, for me, I don't know. You're probably taking that very, very wrongly right now.
No, it is simple, man.
Well, I'm not saying yours in general. I'm just saying you can find simple art on the most bizarre things, and they'll call it that is $1 million, and I'm like, how the fuck?
I don't know what part of the world. I mean, I don't know how one gets into that art culture. I don't know.
Let me know.
I guess. I mean, I probably wouldn't sell this thing for $1 million, but I'm saying like there is beauty in simplicity.
You're not wrong. Like, I mean, there's a reason why people are gravitating back to a simpler life, a simpler way of living, a simpler everything.
And because I do think things have gotten extremely complicated in today's world.
Really?
In what way? You don't say.
You don't say.
Yeah, man, and so. There is that beauty in simplicity, and 100%. I completely support that. There's one of a fantastic book to read is called Grapefruit by Yoko Ono, like the Yoko Ono, and she has a poem that is just called Grapefruit. Now you might not find it, but some will. Some might find the beauty in that. There's a way to be profound in so little words. And I'm not saying like grapefruit is a revelation. I'm not saying that.
I am literally going so the wrong way right now, man.
It's cool. I don't mind.
Have you heard of grapefruiting?
Grapefruiting? No.
Don't look it up.
Grapefruiting?
Yeah. It's
by my natural nature as a male, I'm assuming it's something perverted.
It's very 21st century, let's say that.
Yeah, you wouldn't catch people in the 1890s grapefruiting, whatever the fuck that means.
It just wasn't known back then.
Yeah, who knows, dude? Maybe there was one weirdo in his lab just fucking around with a grapefruit.
That's probably what she meant, man. That's probably like, she was like, grapefruit.
Yes. So I'll move on to my next painting. I did this earlier. I did this, I believe it was last year, at the end of last year, right before 2020. For all my Pink Floyd fans out there, I love you because Pink Floyd rocks.
He's awesome.
So this is the "Wish You Were Here" album cover. Obviously, it's not like I didn't go in great detail on purpose. I went into this kind of like wide cast of shape and color, because from afar, as someone who's seeing it from afar, you see it from afar, you're gonna know what it is. If you know, you know. But and when you get up close, you see it's really just a couple of like just brushes and strokes and and plops of color. And what I had done is I had taped off a border, which this is my first time doing that. My friend Emily, she's a beautiful artist. She had shown me how to do that, and how it kind of just like it captures the painting more. And I think it turned out really well, and I like it a lot.
Someone recently just told me that architecture is art, or art is architecture, whatever way. But
I can see it both ways.
Yeah, it just mind fucked me because I was like, okay, so everything. He's like, yeah, everything's art, and I was like, gotcha. I don't know. My little brain cannot comprehend that much.
Dude, I'm an artist, and my brain can't even comprehend art sometimes.
That's what I mean. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I look at it as simple, and then architecturally, the most simplest things is architecture, is how she said it. That little piece of drumstick over there is art, and then I'm like, whoa.
You are the drumstick sometimes. Sometimes you're the drumstick. Sometimes you're the table, bro.
I find myself being an artist, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know what I'm saying. Like,
some of it, I do just think is kind of mumbo jumbo. But I do agree with some things. I was recently talking to an artist at the Orlando Museum of Art, and she had pointed out some really beautiful things that I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
Because of that art, because of that intellect that an artist can have.
That's, and props to those people, because I've met a lot of those people. At the same time, I feel like subjectively, do you have like a piece of, I don't know, like what you find beauty in, I guess? Because you dabble in so many things, and as an artist, I think you should, but I feel like all of that stems from what you think is beauty.
I personally think my motif would be poetry and writing.
Okay.
Because I think yes, while painting is from the brain, and
or
photography
pictures,
pictures too.
Yeah.
I think that's its purest, stream. Straight from the brain is pouring out onto the paper.
Yeah.
And I have written quite a lot. Some people, and I meet a lot. I've met a lot of people who enjoy doing writing and doing poetry. And there's a wonderful writer. Her name is Erica. I'll keep her last name out, and she had talked to me. She had said, I think my writing is too sad. And I read it, and it's extremely sad and extremely sorrow. But at the same time, it's some of the most deep and intellectual like reading I've done, because it's so beautiful. It's so beautifully tragic. The things that she has gone through in her life, that she had been brave enough to put onto paper and out into the world.
What does that say? When you put it on paper, you are manifesting it. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
And I think you can, like what I was saying yesterday, you can say something to yourself 1,000 times internally, but it is completely different the second you say it out aloud.
Yes.
And I personally can attest to that through my mantra, through the mantra that I use when I do my meditation and my spiritual practice. It's one thing to say it internally, but it's a whole other game to say it out into the world, because the energy you do put out into the world does reflect back onto you, just like throwing if you throw a pebble in a pond, the vibrations go out to the outskirts of the pond and then come back. And so is life. If you were to throw like a bigger rock into the lake,
yes,
a bigger splash and a bigger cast of vibration will be set out. And so it all comes back, man. It all comes back, and that's the path of karma.
Karma. Yeah. Yeah. Karma is a bitch sometimes for the people that, you know. And
you reap what you sow, man.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not a dickhead, things will happen to you.
And that reverts back to like, you know, I usually ask like everybody towards the end of the podcast, like, what would you say to somebody if you're trying to like relate, find them purpose, and you know, it's just kind of like something that kind of like sends signals to them, like are you happy? Like, are you? It's like what's your
right
trying to be? And that's essentially how, like, I mean, my roommate David, he's like, yeah, dude, he reminds me of you. Like, what I usually would say is, to anybody,
thanks,
like, what
David.
Shout out to David. But it's like, what are you passionate about? And I think that's what I would say to kind of like show them you can be simplistic, but at the same time, like, I like people that have some sort of depth to them, if that
introspective
makes sense. Yes.
realization.
Yes.
I think, you know, there's a way that we get kind of sucked into this, you know, mundane circle of
people see it mundane and people don't, you know.
So, yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. And like I said, I can only speak from my perspective. When I'm at work and I'm in the break room, and there's some guys in there or whoever, coworkers, and they talk to me and they ask me what's going on, and I'll give them the truthful answer. I was like, well, you know, I was in my meditation this morning and kind of felt off, and they were like, oh, okay. They're like, anyways, so work sucks, right? And I'm like, didn't you just tell me that yesterday?
Yeah.
Or didn't we have the exact same conversation 4 times last week?
Yeah.
I personally, I can't stand that feeling, man. Like, I don't want to, like, when I catch myself, like, if I tell someone a story and then like 4 days later, I'm like, and I start telling it in, they're like, you already told me. And I feel so stupid, and I hate that feeling. And so, like, when I'm talking to someone and it's like the broken record, man. I'm like,
yeah,
I like to chop it up, and I want to ask them something that really gets the gears turning, man. I want to ask them, you know, have you ever experienced bliss? Have you ever felt bliss? Have you ever rolled down the window when it starts to drizzle and felt the raindrops hit your palm? It feels kind of like,
it feels like a hard hit for me.
It feels like a slight little, and what I imagine is, I imagine that's what it's like if I was, you know, shooting through the highway of deep space in a spaceship and I stuck my hand out the window and I felt the stars tickle my hand. That's what it feels like to me. That's what I imagine. And I'll ask them something like that, and that's when people kind of get the
weird vibe.
Who the fuck is this guy? What the fuck is this guy on?
Yeah, I don't know.
The funniest thing with people think I'm on drugs, and I'm really not.
It's just who you are. But see, that's the reason I'm like, dude, I've had so many. I think everybody has a sense of character.
Yeah.
And like, so, I mean, that's part of the reason why I like doing this podcast, because you find different, I guess, character portrays of me. But at the same time, it's like, I like feeding off of whoever's right in front of me. So if like, it's like the energy wavelengths, and I'm like, okay, is she or he, whatever pronoun, is like right in front of me. Like, I want to match that energy, because it kind of like, it sets a homeostasis to what the podcast is going to be about. But at the same time, if they feel like, oh, I'm about to get a little bit more vulnerable, it's like, okay, yeah, I can mellow down, or I can kind of like, oh, we're too vulnerable, let's kind of like lift it back up, or kind of, you know, it's like, I would say people's minds can only want to handle so much. So like, does that make sense? Like,
it does, extremely.
And for that, I just kind of like look at the people that aren't that, expressive, or, aren't that. I'm like,
Right.
dude, just do something. Like, you
Right.
can stick out more, you can be more, you can do more.
I find a lot of my interactions with other people is they're scared, not scared per se, but they're weary of what others think. And as someone who I've been there.
Well, yeah, I was like, I feel like
I've
all
been
have
there.
that,
I've been there, but I now am not. It's
like
simple, like
now.
now I don't care, and there's a freedom in that.
Yeah.
And there's a peace, there's a sense of peace in that, and a sense of zen.
Yeah.
Where I'm not worried. I'm just not worried about what people think of me, man. And I think, oh man, a perfect example. I went fishing with a friend the other day, and as I was walking to my fishing spot, I see a group of guys setting up like some photography stuff, and
you're like, hey man, what's up?
And some drone stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go see if they want to do like a shoot or something. And she's like, oh, don't do that. Please don't do that. Blah, blah,
Why?
blah. I'm like, exactly. I'm like, what do you mean? Why not? And she's like, cause it's just like weird. And I'm like, what do you mean it's weird? And a lot of people I meet are the same way. They're very weary of like interacting with other
100%.
people. And it's so strange to me. It's baffling because
like, no, don't go.
All I want is to do that with people.
Literally. It's like you meet more people that way.
I love this new sense of networking I'm experiencing. This is all very new to me.
Is this why you're not on social media? Essentially, except Snapchat.
Except Snapchat.
Does it stem from that? Because I had somebody on here that has like that sort of same mentality, but not have that same mentality, because you probably have a different perspective, I guess.
My view on social media is while I do see it as a very beneficial tool for networking and putting your things out there, I mean it would be a lot easier if I was able to put my art out on social media, and I might. There's still a part of me that might do that, but I just don't. I don't believe the cerebral repercussions of social media are worth it. I find it that these apps are specifically designed to absorb your time and absorb your brain and your creativity.
Yeah.
It's like sucking it out of you. And I mean, you can go anywhere and you can see anybody. You go into a waiting room at the doctor's office, everybody says, you
People
go to the
want
gas
the clout,
station,
man.
a stoplight, they're all. It is just. I'd much rather be a weird, strange, abstract individual who thinks way outside the box than to be the same as everybody else. And when I see everybody spending hours and hours a day on their phones, dude, there's this world is fucking beautiful. And don't get me wrong, just because I see you on your phone for 8 hours a day doesn't mean you can't go outside and say, wow, that was beautiful, and go right back inside. But what I'm saying is that there's a long run aspect to it. And I think I've had the ability to have these realizations and these spiritual milestones in my mind because of my disperse of energy, of where I put my energy. I spend an hour a day meditating.
Yes.
And I
have a form of discipline that goes to spirituality, is what you're saying?
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't have that same discipline if my brain was being occupied so much by social media.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not to say, like I said, that's not to say that if I do get social media and I want to put myself out there, that I can't just do it for 30 minutes at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I might do that.
Yeah.
But if I want to. If I don't want to, I'm going to do it this way, because guess what? In in the artistic revolution of the 60s and 70s, they didn't have social media and they still got everything out there. Mm-hmm. They had television, they had phone. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't fucking know what they had for computers, but they had technology, but they didn't have what we have now, and they still got their things out there. And like I said, I don't want it to be misunderstood. I know social media is that tool.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's not impossible to do it without it.
Yeah.
And to be happier
Without
while you
it.
do it.
Yeah, and yeah, man, and we're just speaking off of perspective here because, you know, that's what we do here. But it's like, I don't know. I think a lot of people that are our age or a little bit older are trying to stray away from it, but it's just so hard for all these younger generations, and it's just
they just don't know any better. I don't think.
You think so?
No, I really don't.
But
because
father,
I mean, but Daddy, I want TikTok. No, because I mean, when I was their age, I was just the same, just on the different level. Because when we were kids, we had like the PS3 was like pretty big then. PSP was even bigger, dude. I had a PSP.
I had the GameCube, bro.
Yeah, I did
that.
The
like, DS.
I was the same way, man. I mean, I was playing. I mean, I wasn't. It was nowhere near as much as these kids, but it was.
You think
same.
It's more?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, I think it's more now, definitely.
Mm.
Because I mean, my mom. I mean, let's say. I mean, she didn't like monitor like my gaming or anything.
Right.
But I mean, and granted, this was only for like 2 years I did this, but it was like. I would play like Black Ops for like 3 hours a night, but that was it.
That was it.
3 hours a night, and then the rest of the time I was spent like playing like Manhunt with my friends in a field.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I think the accessibility was harder.
Right, and I sure as fuck didn't have a cell phone until
That's
I was
what I
like
mean.
I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 16.
I think I was 13 or 14.
Right.
And it was the little flip ones.
Yeah, I had one of those Envies.
I think I had that like after that. The keyboards were like.
Yeah, I love the.
Shit.
I went to Verizon and I tried to get one of those because I'm tired of my iPhone. I said I'll pay off my iPhone and I'll keep it as an iPod, just for my music, and then I'll just use a flip phone for a phone.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we don't do that anymore. I'm like, what?
They're like, not a lot of people do.
we don't do the flip phones anymore. And I'm like,
it's gonna come back. Do you see that new the Razor?
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I just think they just don't know better yet, and their brains are very much still in a limbo state of, they don't even know what the hell's going on really.
Yeah. Yeah.
On one hand, they're very aware.
Okay.
Of what they're aware of. If that makes sense. They're very aware of how to post TikTok and how to play Minecraft and how to play Fortnite or whatever the case may be. They're not very aware of the use of their own consciousness or finding peace in other things or just the overall open-mindedness of what the experience of life brings.
Right.
The reason I think the way I think today is because I've been in certain situations.
True. Not because of technology.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. So see, gotcha. That makes a little bit more sense right there.
Right.
Because, that's the thing. A lot of people don't really allude
right.
the experiences with or try to like make it make sense with that.
Right. And I should say, I mean, when I was a teenager and I was in high school, and even up until like 2 years ago, man, I was on social media. I was doing it all. But it was the fact of what had happened. I had awakened, and I had realized all those things weren't necessary.
Yeah.
And I personally find much more peace in the nature of being, of our natural state, Nature is perfect until man ruins it. And you know what? You ask if I have any advice for anybody who wants to
dabble,
and we haven't really even gotten into like the deep of what I do, but
I don't think a lot of people can grasp it.
Yeah, it's heavy, man. It's heavy, and there's a lot of avenues to it.
But people can kind of understand, I guess, the realm that you're coming from.
And at the end, I'm gonna give you guys my email. And my
so old fashioned. Like, I'm gonna give you guys.
I'm gonna give you my fax number.
Fax number, my email, my pager.
Right. I got my beeper.
The beeper.
No, I'll give you guys my email and I'll give you my Snapchat. I'm with the times, Snapchat. And if you want to know more about like what I practice and what I do because I do, and it's not it's not a state of, cockiness. I know I'm more.
You sure?
I'm
Just kidding.
I know I'm more calm and more stress free than a lot of people.
Dude, we can hear it in your voice.
But it's just, like not a lot of people know yet. You don't know until you know. And but
Exactly.
if I have to narrow it down to one sentence, knock and the door shall be opened. And that's in any sense. If that's a literal sense, if you see your neighbor doing something and you want to learn how to do that, go knock on his door and ask him. There's so many people, especially in such a metropolitan area like Orlando or like any city in America, you don't even know who your neighbors are.
It's funny, we do actually.
Well,
yeah,
right,
I know, but
right.
I mean,
but in a general speaking, you don't know who your neighbors are, and that's really strange to me.
Very old fashioned too.
Very. And
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do, and I purposely make an effort to know who my neighbors are and interact with them, because one, that gives me a better feeling. Like these people I'm living next to aren't just strangers. Like I know these dudes, and I know their kids, and I know their dogs' names and shit like that.
Right.
Or so it's either in a literal sense, knock on the door shall be opened.
Yeah.
Or in a figurative sense.
Right.
When I wanted to know more about meditation, I knocked and the information came to me. And all you have to do is be susceptible to that kind of information and that kind of knowledge.
Right.
And your brain will retain it. You should, I feel like people don't give their brain enough credit, man.
I agree. It's what, the strongest muscle in your body?
It's absolutely amazing what we can accomplish. And there's a lot of things that I'm really bad at, man. I'm really bad at texting people back, but I'm really good at sitting down for an hour and a half and looking inward. I can do that, but I can't text somebody back.
But it's also the self-acknowledgement of you knowing your strengths and your weaknesses.
It's self-awareness, mindfulness.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I was kind of studying.
There's a beautiful book that I suggest to everybody to read. Just because it really puts things in perspective.
You need to write a book, I think, also.
I started writing a book. I have a couple chapters. It's fictional. It's nothing to do with my life, but still. No, this book, it's called Peace is Every Breath. It's written by this Buddhist monk. I unfortunately can't pronounce his name. But if you just go to Google and type in Peace is Every Breath book, you'll see it. You'll see like the name.
You see a long name.
You see the name. It's very interesting. I can't pronounce it, but that taught me a lot of things. And when I say it was written by a Buddhist monk, but I practice Hinduism.
See, I'm more on the Buddhist side.
Right.
But say that's.
So you would love that book.
Yeah.
And honestly, like the book, it teaches you how to ground your consciousness. Mm-hmm. And like I was saying yesterday when we were talking, your mind and your everyday consciousness is what we're seeing, our five senses, our five sense organs, internally and externally. Mm-hmm. Our everyday consciousness is like that little voice in your head, that inner monologue. Yeah. And think of it as an ocean. And when you're going through a stressful time and you're going through shit, the top of the ocean is always moving. Right. It's always crashing. The waves it's nuts. And it's stress. But if you can actively ground your awareness to and anchor it to the bottom of the sea is always calm, no matter how crazy the storm is up top. So if you're able to ground your awareness deep within the depths of your own consciousness, whether it be whether you see yourself like sitting in front of a tree or sitting on a beach or whatever the case may be, if that's your grounding, and you and you discipline yourself to kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Yeah. That even though shit's getting crazy and I'm going through a stressful time, I'm anchored in this state of peace, in this state of tranquility. There is this great analogy that was said by a Vedic teacher, a Vedic yogi. The Vedanta is a stream of Hinduism, and it's if I'm going to paraphrase it, but if you picture yourself as like a large oak tree, right? The sap of the tree, or the maple tree, I guess. The sap of the tree is our state of true being. And what that means basically is like we are not this physical body or this physical mind. We are the awareness of this body and mind. And there is a true nature. You look at trees and oceans and forests and, just nature. You look at nature, and we are that. We are of this earth. Humans are of this earth. And so we have that perfect nature within us as the sap. And if you're able to train your mind to focus on that sap and to submerge your awareness into the depths of consciousness, and you become the sap, so to say, you experience that true nature. And then you realize that that's the goal of life for me, is to experience, bliss consciousness. That is nature.
Okay.
That is within that nature of us, of the humans, of our atoms, of everything. And everything else is just mundane and kind of secondary.
I feel like I need to be high for this. Just kidding. I'm not going to say that. Anyways. No, but no, dude, I
know it's a lot to swallow.
No, and I'm not saying it for me. I'm saying it for whoever's listening. Like, there are some people that can literally engulf themselves into like a lot of this stuff. I would say I would be one of them, per se. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I feel like something. I've been talking to one of my good friends. She talks about a lot about that the gut is like a second brain. Yes. And like you always have that gut feeling and all this other stuff, which kind of tells you sometimes this is the decision making. And I just go back to a lot of people just won't dabble into this happy. I think there has to be something very traumatic that has to happen in their lives to kind of want to go into this sort of what we're talking about.
Right.
And
like there needs to be some sort of catalyst for them to
100%.
want to, because only you can decide to do these things. Right. That's just like getting sober. Only you can decide to get sober. You know?
Exactly.
It's the same concept. Only you can decide to go within. Right.
Maybe that's just one factor, whatever you want to call it. Keep in mind, I am a moron, so I don't know psychology as much as what I feel like I should bring on a psychologist just to kind of see what he would say. But at the same time, it's kind of like people want to dabble into this, are scared fearfully, like, they don't know how to start. They don't know how to, kind of what avenue I should take, what should I end up doing. And it's like you said, it's like keeping that, it was like if you've knocked the door, knock on the door, yes. And so it's like that analogy does make sense for anybody that is scared to kind of like dabble into this sort of things. And that's the thing. Like me and you both know, and like me and you are like very spiritual people. At the same time, it's like we still live in this world, I guess. Right. So it's like it's
how you live in this world that matters.
Exactly. So it's like, one, we did reach the time limit, and dude, yes.
How do the kids say oof?
Oof.
Oof.
I don't know. Oof.
I have a couple of cousins, and
they say it like that.
They say oof. Like they call it some game like Roblox.
Oh, Roblox? Yeah.
Like, oof. I think it's so cool.
Kids, man.
It's crazy how much they imprint on you, because now I say oof.
It's insane, man. You see yourself in these kids, and I mean it's insane.
Yeah.
Like I have a niece and nephew, and I see myself like a lot into them, and I'm like,
right.
I was crazy that way. Like,
right.
So like it's so funny, but man, dude, I just want to say thanks for coming on, dude.
It was a pleasure to talk with you, man. And honestly, it's cool to get this voice. I have a lot to say, man. So you giving me this avenue
you're
is
definitely gonna be welcome back, dude.
Yeah, this is great.
This is one way to introduce people to see
right
who you are, what you do.
Who the fuck is this guy?
Like, who is this guy?
I'll write a book. I'll write a book. Who the fuck is this guy?
It's like the caption for your episode. Who is this guy?
That would be funny.
I'm just kidding.
If it's okay, I'll plug my email.
Ladies and gentlemen,
my email. You're gonna laugh when you see what website it's on. My email is canaanartcontact@yahoo.com. It's CAN.
We're gonna stop here. I'm just
Okay.
kidding. I'm just kidding. You go. I was just
CANAAN art contact at Yahoo. And my Snapchat is, I actually don't know my Snapchat name. I'll have to get back to you.
I'll put it down in the description down below, guys.
Right.
I will put his email, his pager, his everything in the
My
90s. His fax number.
Yeah.
Any social security maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
What is that thing?
I got nothing to hide. Taxman, come get me. No,
Just
really though, I would like to say thank you for anybody who's listening. And if you do have any questions about the things I talk about, or the things that you might think I might be interested in, or even if you want to meet up, like I said earlier, send me something on my email or my Snapchat to photograph, and I'll do it, or paint, or do anything, man. I just want to create, and I want to love, man.
I just want to help people out there. That's all I'm doing.
Peace and love. Hare Krishna. Much love.
But ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna finish it off here. Once again, thank you, CJ,
Thanks,
for coming on, Ron. I really do appreciate the pictures, and we're going to dive deep into it afterwards and on another podcast. But ladies and gentlemen, this was another episode of the Slice of Life podcast. Like I said, I'm going to put a lot of his information down below, guys, and we'll see you guys later.
Take it easy, guys.